Welcome back everyone. So in this video we will talk about the important aspect is the call apply bind, which we see everywhere, right? Directly or indirectly we use all these methods, and this is called explicit this binding. We will talk about it. Okay, so consider this is an example. Greet is a function and I'm doing this dot name. Okay, and when I call this function directly greet, right, then from where this name is coming, it will say undefined, right, until unless it's not available in the global object. So can I supply this name variable from outside and do the explicit this binding? Yes, that is possible. You can you can do the call method onto this functions greet.call and override this object with the person. Okay, so what I'm saying, so when we talk about call is actually something like this: function name dot call. This is the object. So what this function is doing, whatever this is pointing currently, override this object definition with this new object. Right now, this dot name may be representing something, but I wanted to override at this dot name, and this object should get the value property name from the person object. So I will do greet.call, pass the person object. So person object here overriding the definition of this object in this particular context, not global. Okay, similarly, so if you wanted to pass a multiple argument in the same functions, so is the greet functions, and this is the object, and I want to override, use this object for overriding this object definition, and I want you to pass a multiple argument here, then you can call the apply method. That is the only difference here between call and apply. And call is purely used to override this object definition with some other object. Maybe so consider I'm accessing some properties here which I'm getting from somewhere, but I want explicitly that those properties should come from this object, this person object. Then how can I do that? I will do a call on that function and I will pass the person explicitly. Okay, dude, you are whatever you are getting, this dot name, this dot blah blah, those things are available in the person object. So this is the override we are doing. Apply is just a difference is we are passing the multiple arguments here. Okay, consider this example. So call and apply are basic. You can just talk more about the more examples on this, how the call happens and how the apply happens. Now we'll talk about the bind method. Sometimes we see that whenever we are talking about the nested callbacks, we don't have the scope of this object there, or scope of any particular object we are accessing there, that is lost or that is not there. So we need to explicitly bind this object there and say, okay dude, you have to use this particular object because I explicitly bind that. Okay, so when I say x dot bind y, that means what I'm saying that I am binding y to the definition of x. So wherever you are using y, or like this dot some prop, if that property is available in the y, then use this property because I'm explicitly binding with that property. Okay, so here what we are doing, set timeout is actually a function which takes another function as an argument, and it has some timeout period 3000 millisecond. And here in this function, let's talk about the do stuff method. So you're actually calling a particular function here. Consider this method something like this. Okay, set timeout function you have created, and there is some this object, this context available here. So take a look on this example. whatever this context available inside this function, will that also be available again in this next set timeout, right? Set timeout is something which is running after 3 seconds, and most probably this object, the context of this object will be lost inside. Then what we end up doing, we assign what that equal to this, and we access this object something like this dot x or something. Okay, this is how we generally do. Let's assign this to some, right? This is how we do. How we can get rid of it? We can explicitly bind all these methods to this object. Like this is the particular functions we are talking about. So this function we can explicitly bind with this object. So this is what we are doing. If you take a look onto this example, here I have my object, and my object has a do stuff method, do stuff prototype method. And what I'm doing inside set timeout, I'm calling my object dot do stuff, right? And do stuff is accessing some properties from this object, right? So object here, object dot do stuff, object dot do stuff is accessing name and action property. Okay, I already have the object created for the my object. Okay, now this object will have, if you do console.log on this object, what you will get both the properties here, right? This is what object look like. It is having the name and my object name and property. Okay, my property, these are the two properties are there. Now I am calling this set timeout functions and passing this do stuff method, right? And I'm calling this do stuff method, so I'm trying to access name and action property. They cannot be undefined because I'm trying to call it, right? So to make this name and action property available inside the callback function where this object is already lost, so you need to explicitly do the bind. So you can consider this as x, and what you are doing, x dot bind object, new object, or you can say y. So y is a new object, and in the x you are trying to access some property which exists in the y. So that's why we are doing a bind here. So this is explicit binding, and if we do the bind, then this object is having these two properties, name, my object name and my property will easily be accessible by this do stuff method. This is called explicit binding of this object.